where we discuss everything and all things politics, economy, and development in Nigeria and around the world. Nigeria's president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has demanded that he deserved Guinness Book of World Records for the many reforms he had introduced since coming to office on May 29, 2023. He made this assertion recently with the belief that he has done so much since coming to office as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that he had introduced many reforms that are benefiting the country, which now begs the question, whatever reforms that he had introduced, how had it bettered the lives of Nigerians? How has it benefited Nigerians that he thinks that he deserved to be commended for the many reforms that he has introduced? Now, the verdict is still out there in public in terms of how Nigerians have benefited from the so-called reforms. This is because the first thing he did on May 29th, on the day of he was sworn in, was to remove the fuel subsidy. Now, that action that he took has worsened the economic situation of Nigerians. This is because he removed the fuel subsidy without taking into cognizance its strategic importance in the welfare and well-being of Nigerians. Why did I say this? A lot of things happening in the country, in Nigeria, revolves around the fuel that we use in Nigeria. Most Nigerians, the only thing they benefit, or they have benefited from the Nigerian government, is the fuel subsidy, the price they pay for the fuel. Because fuel is essential in Nigeria, not only for those who drive vehicles, but also for those who use it for small-scale businesses. The barbering salon owner, the hairdressing salon owner, the pepper grinder, and many other things, small-scale entrepreneurs that run on fuel that is for generators. This is because Nigeria is a country where the power sector is almost in comatose. You cannot guarantee power for up to 5 hours in any part of Nigeria. So most businesses rely on powering their small generators, which is popularly known in local parlance as "I pass my neighbor," to use it to run their businesses. Now, many of these businesses can no longer cope because Tinubu removed the fuel subsidy without taking them into consideration. And if you look at all the palliatives they are doing, they are all revolves around those who are working with government. Only about 5% or less than that of Nigerians work with the government. But most of the palliatives that his administration had given so far, which was even an afterthought, because he never thought about the welfare of the average worker before he removed the fuel subsidy. are basically for those who are in government, who are working in government. Nobody is talking about the vast majority of Nigerians, the farmers, the small-scale business owners, business organizations, and all that. Those ones are bearing the biggest brunt of the fuel subsidy. The local woman in the market who grinds pepper, who does so many things with her generator, can no longer do it. And in the end, what you have seen is that the removal of this fuel subsidy without adequate preparation, like former secretary to the government of the federation rightly pointed out, he pointed out that that's David Lawal. He pointed out that, look, how could you remove fuel subsidy when you don't have minister? Because at the time, Bola Ahmed Tinubu removed the fuel subsidy, so there was no consultation whatsoever. It was an arbitrary decision that he took, and that arbitrary has had so much negative impact in the country. Today, inflation rate is over 30%. Nigerians can barely feed themselves. Nigerians can barely feed themselves. People who are hitherto taking care of their families have been turned to beggars. So the reform that he has introduced in terms of removal of the fuel subsidy, which many agreed should be removed, had worsened the situation. And the claims are being made that, after all the presidential candidates at the run-up to the 2023 presidential election, they all say they will remove fuel subsidy. But none, Peter Obi of the Labour Party and Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, none of them ever promised that they will remove it without putting palliatives, without taking into consideration the impact it's going to have in the economy of Nigeria and on the ordinary Nigerians. Now, Tinubu did this without consultation, without a cabinet, as pointed out by David Lawal, Secretary to the Federal Government of Nigeria. And the result is what we are seeing in Nigeria today: escalation of poverty all over the country, escalation of poverty in an unprecedented proportion. And the palliatives that the government has also introduced, which I said was an afterthought, had not reached the real people. You have instances where governors were given 5 billion, yet the 5 billion couldn't do anything for ordinary Nigerians. We have seen instances where in a whole ward they are given 5 bags, 1 bag, 2 bags of rice. For how many and for how long? Initially, the government talked about giving palliative to 12 million Nigerians, 8,000 naira monthly and all that. When they see that it was an exercise in futility and that the people literally revolted against that, they changed gear. Now they are paying 25,000 naira addition or award, salary award to government workers. What about the ordinary Nigerians? What about the market woman? What about the farmer in the rural areas? How are they going to benefit, given the small percentage of Nigerians that are working for government? Had he done anything in that respect? He has not done anything in that respect. So that has contributed, that his action has contributed in exacerbating poverty in Nigeria. Remember that already before Tinubu took over government, Nigeria had been ranked as the poverty capital of the world. Nigeria took over from India as the poverty capital of the world. You would have expected that a government that is coming in will take note of that fact and be able to put palliatives in place that will take care of the needs, social welfare needs, the economic needs of the downtrodden, the ordinary man in the street. He didn't do it. So failing to do this, and yet claiming that he deserved Guinness Book of World Record for the reforms that he had produced, really had made Nigerians to wonder whether Tinubu is living in a different world from where they are living. Of course, it could be understandable. Living in the Aso Rock Villa, he may be removed, he is removed from the hardship on the streets of Nigeria to the level that even those who supposedly voted for him are complaining bitterly about the state of the nation. So based on this kind of reform, most Nigerians will agree that Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not deserve to be given Guinness Book of World Record in terms of performance, in terms of the successes emanating from his reform. Because one of the reforms has made life worse for Nigerians. The cost of goods and services had quadrupled by over 300%. Transportation costs had quadrupled. The price of food and other essentials have quadrupled. That is why poverty has been exacerbated under his so-called reforms. And nobody on the streets of Nigeria will agree that Tinubu had made a success of this reform to the level that he deserved to be rewarded with Guinness Book of World Record. That is basically the truth out there. Now, he's also touting his reform, that he's doing reform with the Central Bank of Nigeria and in Nigeria's monetary policy. One of the policies introduced was the floating of the naira, so that demand and supply will be the major determinants of the value of Nigeria's naira. Now, this reform, this floating of the naira, is one of the things that has hurt the economy so much. It has brought down the value of the naira to an unprecedented level. Never in the history of Nigeria had the value of the naira been this low, to the level that Nigeria naira is almost now ranked lower than the French franc that are being used in West African sub-region. Before now, Nigeria's naira used to be the king in West African sub-region, the preferred currency. It is no longer so. This is because the floating of the naira is a wrong policy for a country that is import dependent, a country that imports virtually everything that it uses, everything that it needs. Most of the goods that you see in Nigerian streets are imported. and the government is floating the naira, what does it expect? It means that it didn't do its homework well. And that is also one of the things that former secretary to the government talked about, that you can't take such a monumental decision of floating the naira without having Minister of Finance, without having Minister of Economic Planning and all that. And you take a unilateral decision and expect that things will be okay. Things are not going to be okay. Look at what is happening to the Nigerian naira. It got to the level that Nigerian naira was exchanging for 1,300 naira to the dollar. 1,300 naira to the dollar. It was an unprecedented development. And it wasn't something that was unexpected when you take that decision. Floating of the naira was not a reform that was a rocket science or a reinvention of the wheel. In 2020, President Muhammadu Buhari and former Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele, they tried it. It burnt their finger and they ran away from it. You can Google it. Emefiele float the naira. They floated the naira thinking that there is a solution, that's the solution to the economic problem that the country was facing. Their fingers got burnt and they ran away from it. And Tinubu thought that he can do it without consequences. And he has tried it. And the country is paying the price for the floating of the naira. That has led to tripling, quadrupling of prices of imported goods into the country. And you can see that even the central bank governor, the new central bank governor in the country, has also made things worse for the agricultural sector. About 41 items that were hitherto banned from importation in the country, they have now allowed it to be imported into the country. Things like rice. The reform that former President Muhammadu Buhari brought to the agricultural sector, especially in the rice production in Nigeria, was able to catapult Nigeria to become the largest rice producer in Africa, taking over from Egypt, overtaking Egypt. Now that the gains from that are being eroded. Why? Because with the introduction of importation of foreign rice into the country and giving people forex to import rice, it is now going to affect the capacity of local rice growers in Nigeria. Whatever may be its imperfection, the anchor borrowers program of the Central Bank of Nigeria under Emefiele was able to galvanize rice farmers in Nigeria to produce more. And it also helped in encouraging Nigerians to eat made in Nigerian rice. And most Nigerians were eating made in Nigerian rice. And they prefer it even more than the foreign rice. It was because of that program, that anchor borrowers program, which resulted in a lot of rice being available in Nigeria. That was where during the COVID, because of the restriction in movements around the world, Nigerians did not suffer much in terms of availability of rice. Now, when the rice farmers are supposed to consolidate on that program, the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had given license for importation of rice and opening the borders for rice to come in. I know some people will say even when they closed the border, rice was still coming in, but Nigerians were eating basically local rice. You can't deny that fact. So the reforms he brought in the CBN has also affected the local rice farmers. And I don't know how they are going to cope, because these local rice farmers are still owing Central Bank of Nigeria the money that they were given under the Anchor's Borrowers Program. So these are the kind of reforms that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had brought into being, for which he is demanding that he deserves commendation and that he deserves recognition by the Guinness Book of World Records. These reforms, from my assessment now that you're seeing, you can see that they have not done anything positive for Nigerians. Both in the short and the long run, it's not going to do anything for Nigerians. The floating of the naira will keep on be an issue. And even they themselves know that it's not working. Now they go cap in hand begging for money for people to come and put dollars inside Nigeria, when we know the things they should do to boost the value of the naira. The other time when they went to Saudi Arabia for summit of Saudi African Summit, they claimed that Saudi Arabia had promised that they're going to bring in dollars to boost Nigeria's forex and then revitalizing the refineries in the country. Where are the Saudi dollars? And why would Saudi Arabia do that in the first place? Why would they want to pump in their hard-earned dollars into Nigerian forex market just to help Nigeria boost its currency? Where is that done? But these are the kind of gimmicks they sell to people to give the impression that the whole world are recognizing the effort they are making. Where are the Saudi dollars? And why would Saudi Arabia put their dollars in Nigeria? Why would they bring it and put it in Nigeria? When the Saudi Arabian government see Nigeria as fellow competitors in the oil market, fellow competitors in everything. We all saw how they treated Peace A, because Peace A is now competing with Saudi A in the Nigerian transport market, which they have been dominating in terms of moving of passengers to Saudi Arabia. It had been dominated by Saudi A, and now they see Peace A as a threat, and they try to frustrate him. And they are doing everything to frustrate Peace A. Now, if Saudi Arabia is really interested in boosting Nigeria's dollar market or the forex market, they should have supported Peace A, because Peace is conserving the dollars in Nigeria. Peace is charging Nigerians lower than the Saudi A. But Saudi A and the government of Saudi Arabia, they were not happy that Peace is competing with them. And these are the same people. They are touting that they promised that they will bring in dollars to boost the forex market in Nigeria, and that they are bringing in money to revitalize Nigeria's refinery. Imagine that kind of thing. So the reform you are doing is to beg for foreign countries to come and help you revitalize the forex market in your country and help you revitalize the refineries. You don't know what to do with the refineries. If you cannot manage the refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna, if you don't know what to do with them, why don't you sell it off? Obasanjo sold it off before the late President Yaradua canceled that transaction. So why don't you do that? Why do you have to expect that Saudi Arabia will come and put their money to help you in an industry that they are competing with you in the world market? And you think it made sense to say that kind of thing? And some people bought it, and even the media didn't interrogate that statement. The media didn't interrogate the fact that they claim that that Saudi Arabia is going to bring in dollars, substantial dollars, that's how they put it, substantial forex to boost Nigeria's forex market. Where is that done? On what basis will Saudi Arabia bring in substantial dollars into Nigeria to boost Nigeria's forex market? On what basis? There was no basis for that. It didn't really make much sense, but Nigerians didn't complain much about it. But people like me, I did videos to show that they are all gimmicks. So there was no truth in that. It was similar to the meeting that the government held with United Arab Emirates. After the meeting, they said that United Arab Emirates has immediately resumed flights to Nigeria, that Emirates can now fly to Nigeria, and that they have lifted the visa ban on Nigerians. It was a total lie. These are lies. And they didn't even have the courage to apologize to Nigerians for lying to them. So they just go abroad and stay there, cook up statements and sell out to Nigerians. And when they are found out, they didn't even have the courage to apologize to Nigerians that we are sorry. Because that statement that they made, that United Arab Emirates will resume flight, and that that they have removed visa ban on Nigerians, that have lifted the visa ban on Nigerians. Many people use it and scam a lot of Nigerians, because they now begin to sell idea that now that United Arab Emirates have removed this visa restriction, you can now go. And some people were scammed, thinking it was the truth, and people were scammed. So that's why it's always good for a government to be circumspect in whatever is dishing out to the Nigerian public. So Bola Ahmed Tinubu cannot say that his reform has really worked to deserve Guinness Book of World Record. No, you can't say it has worked to that level. And look at some of the actions the government is taking. The government claimed that the former President Buhari administration bankrupted the country, and that they don't have resources to now carry on with the governance, the projects they want to do. And the person that revealed this was the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. Now, if you know that the country is bankrupt, is in a state of bankruptcy, what will a nation in a state of bankruptcy do? A nation in a state of bankruptcy has to prioritize where it's putting its funds. But that is not what Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is doing. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is pretending over an administration where they are buying jeeps for National Assembly lawmakers at 160 million naira per jeep. Now, at the same time, over 6 billion was budgeted for SUVs for the president's office. Over 1.5 billion was also budgeted for SUVs for the office of the First Lady. There is the issue of the yachts and so many other things that the government that said it had brought reforms are spending money on. That shows that really, if there is any reform at all, the reform is for ordinary Nigerians to suffer more in terms of tightening their belt, while the elite continue to live in affluence, despite the fact that the government itself admitted that the country is in a bankruptcy state. If you are doing a reform and you have a situation where those in government are living in opulence and no effort is being made to reduce it, you cannot say you have brought reform that is acceptable, that is beneficial to the people. Because those who ought to tighten their belts, those whose earnings ought to have been cut in public interest, are those who are in government. But that's not what is being done. It's only the ordinary people that are expected to bear the brunt of whatever reform that is going on, while no effort had been made by the administration in terms of those at the top, those of them in government, to show that, look, we cannot continue to live like this. We have to make a change. We cannot continue to run this country like this. Nothing like that had happened. Nothing like that had happened. Instead, the government keep on increasing. The Tinubu administration has the largest cabinet in Nigeria's history, and yet he's boasting that he brought reforms. Any reform that increases the expenditure of government in a country that is the poverty capital of the world, in a country that is in bankruptcy, it shows that it is not serious, or less it's not telling Nigerians the truth. Why is the government expanding as the country's resources continue to diminish? Why is that the case? And you say you've done a reform that deserve commendation, that deserve recognition by the Guinness Book of World Record. You don't deserve that kind of award unless you want an award for the negative. Tinubu can be given an award for spreading more poverty than at any other time in Nigeria's history. That could be an award they can give to him, because poverty in Nigeria has been exacerbated by the reforms of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Nigerians are more poorer today than they were on May 29 when he took over, prior to May 29. And to some of us, we never knew that any government will be seen as bringing more poverty, more hardship to Nigerians than the Buhari administration. The Buhari administration was one of the administrations, perhaps the worst administration that this country had ever seen before now, in terms of the way the country was run aground. Not just that government was notorious for cronyism, for parochiality, for being parochial, in terms of nepotism, in terms of discrimination, in terms of building on the fault lines of Nigerians. But it was also very poor in the management of Nigeria's economy. That government, under it, we had over 4 recessions, which they tried to blame on other people but themselves. That government made things so bad in this country that we are still bearing the brunt of what they left behind. The inflation rates started getting worse under them. What Nigerians pay for fuel began to double yearly under them. It was under Buhari that we became the poverty capital of the world. Now, the people thought that with Buhari off the scene, that Nigerians are going to have a breath of fresh air. But Nigerians are choking with poverty. Nigerians are choking with uncertainty. Nigerians are choking with the reforms, so-called reforms that have been introduced by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Go and ask the opinion of any businessman in Nigeria, what they are passing through to be able to stay afloat. Those who have not closed shop. You cannot then understand that there is no basis and no reason to give Bola Ahmed Tinubu any pass mark for him to be in the Guinness Book of World Record for any good reason in terms of the reforms. Then we know that at the center of Nigeria's development is corruption. Corruption is the bane of Nigerian development. This administration is virtually doing nothing about corruption. It has been said severally, and this government has also confirmed it, that there was unprecedented corruption in the Buhari administration. Now, Buhari administration was an administration that was fond of talking about corruption, talking about anti-corruption, to the level that even Buhari was packaged as the corruption champion in Africa and all that. But we know that despite all their claims to fighting corruption under Buhari administration, Nigeria was constantly ranked among the most corrupt countries in the world under their leadership. Now, that is getting worse now under this administration. Why is it getting worse? While Buhari administration was at least at every level, keep on talking about war against corruption and all that, this government have been literally mooted on corruption. So it gives the impression that anti-corruption is no longer a major issue in Nigeria. War against corruption is no longer a major issue in Nigeria under this administration. And of course, there are reasons for this. When President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was campaigning ahead of the election, he wasn't talking about fighting corruption. You hardly see where he was talking about fighting corruption and all that. The same thing could be said also about the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar never talked about that he was coming to fight corruption. Anti-corruption was not in the agenda of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And anti-corruption was not in the agenda of Atiku Abubakar. The only presidential candidate that was talking about fighting corruption and changing the system and changing the status quo with his full chest was Peter Obi of the Labour Party. He was the one that was hammering about fighting corruption, and he was very emphatic on how he's going to fight this corruption, how his lifestyle, what he's going to do in government will help to discourage corruption. And he had been famously seen saying it, that if the leader is not stealing, if his family members are not stealing, if those around him observe that he himself and his family are upright, that they're not putting their hands into the public till, they will learn from the leader, and that will have corruption. He had been emphatic on it. And he also said that he's not going to look back, that he's going to say enough is enough. We know that people have stolen, but from my regime upwards, we're going to put all the mechanisms to ensure that going forward, you can't steal anymore from this country. He was the one that only talked about fighting corruption. Now, Tinubu is not talking about fighting corruption. And it remains to be seen whether any Nigerian will believe him if he said that he will fight corruption. Or if anybody said that under this administration, the APC will fight corruption. It remains to be seen how Nigerians will believe that kind of story because of the antecedent of those in government. Okay, look, take for instance, coalition of civil society organizations in Nigeria have complained that look at the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that so many ministers, former governors who are being investigated by the Economic and Financial Crime Commission are now ministers. Where is that done? In fact, it appears that even the EFCC chairman was sacrificed in the interest of these governors that were allegedly corrupt and are being investigated by the EFCC. The EFCC chairman became a victim of trying to prosecute those former governors. And he has paid the price. He had been unceremoniously shoved aside. Coalition of civil society organizations, they raised this issue. That what is the impression? The impression people are seeing out there is that the government is accommodating those who are allegedly corrupt, who are being investigated by the EFCC. It was Rafsanjani, the head of Transparency International in Nigeria, that read the statement of that group. So you can see. So when you have that kind of situation, what kind of reform will you do in Nigeria that will work if you don't tackle corruption? And the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not ready to tackle corruption. So how then does he deserve to be given a medal? How then does he think that the so-called reforms would work without dealing with corruption? Is corruption only going after MFLA? Is it the beginning and the end of corruption in Nigeria? MFLA? Shoving him from one court to another. Is that the only corruption that need to be fought? You say that the Buhari administration bankrupted the country. Is it only MFLA that was corrupt in the Buhari administration, allegedly? Why is he the only one suffering? Why is he the only one being kicked from one court to another? Until the issue of corruption is tackled squarely, I don't think that any reform in Nigeria will work without addressing the issue of corruption, the root causes of corruption, those who perpetrate it, and what must be done to them. A situation that people who are alleged to be corrupt, who are being investigated by the EFCC, are being appointed into government, and the EFCC chairman had to pay the price for going after them so allegedly. It doesn't really show that we are seeing that the Tinubu administration is serious about reform. Because what kind of reform are you doing in one of the most corrupt countries in the world without fighting corruption? What kind of reform will work? You first of all have to be seen, not only to be seen, not only fighting corruption, you have to be seen to be fighting corruption. Not just fighting corruption, you must be seen to be fighting corruption. And it will reflect in people's perception of it. That is why Transparency International talks about perception, corruption perception index. What is the corruption perception index under Bola Ahmed Tinubu? You will be amazed when the next set of Transparency International Corruption Perception Index will come out. Nigerians will be amazed. So in general, I can say that the reforms, so-called reforms that had been introduced by Bola Ahmed Tinubu had made life worse for Nigerians. It has not solved any problem for Nigerians. It had made life more difficult for most Nigerians. It has spread more poverty than ever before. It has created the highest inflation level in Nigeria's history in a peacetime. It has caused increase in crime and criminality because of the poverty it has exacerbated all over the country. And it has made many Nigerians to really begin to live a lifestyle they never thought imaginable that they will ever live. Because when you see a situation where even public servants, people who are working in government, civil servants, have now been turned to beggars, you now know that the situation is dire. A situation where those who are working have to beg to complement their income because literally their take-home pay couldn't take them home. Despite the addition of 25,000 naira to some of them, especially those at the federal level, things have not improved at all, because when they go to the market, they realize that things have gone beyond what 25,000 naira addition could have done for them. And if that could be the situation, the state of those who are working, who are government workers, what about ordinary Nigerians? What about the man on the street? What about the woman on the street? What about the market woman? What about the farmer? What about the cleaners? Those are the low rung of the society. What do you think is happening to them today under Bola Ahmed Tinubu's reform? Life has become so difficult, so terrible for most Nigerians. That is why criminality is on the increase. And if there is anything, any reward, any award that Bola Ahmed Tinubu deserves, it is for him to be recognized as the president who worsened the poverty situation in his country in the shortest time possible. Thank you for watching this video. And if you are new to my channel, you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell. When you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, anytime I have a new video, you'll be among the first to know. And when I'm live, you'll be among the first to know too, as I am right now. Thank you, and God bless you and yours.